So up to this point, we've learned how to graph two types of radical functions, square roots and cube root functions, and we've learned how to translate them or shift them horizontally to left or right, vertically up or down, and we've learned two other things. How do we graph it when the scale factor is larger than 1, or when it compresses, it's between 0 and 1, and the last one is if there's a number in front, such as this. So we shift left, we shift down, we can see that it's going to rise faster because it stretches vertically by a factor of 2. But then we also have already learned that if there's a negative in front of the scale factor, it's going to do what? It's going to flip which way? Reflect over the x-axis. Well, now we're going to learn about when does it reflect across the y-axis. That's going to be the new one. So here's our first example. You're welcome just to watch this. I'm going to start with the square root. So how does this look slightly different than what you've already learned? What's different is in the past you had like an x minus 7 or x plus 7, right? Well, this time it has a negative in front, so we're going to rewrite this. And we need to keep the same values. We still need to have a negative x and a positive 7. So to do that, I'm going to put a negative in front of the parentheses. And what I write inside, I need to make sure that when I distribute the negative, I still end up with this answer. So if I place an x here, negative times x is negative x. That's good. And negative times negative 7 is a positive 7. It's now in a form that allows me to graph. This portion says translate it or move it to the right 7 and up 2. This is my new origin. So think of this as your x-axis and your y-axis. Now what's different? Well, we're working with a square root, so we're used to this pattern. Well, this negative sign now is going to be actually multiplied by the x values. So negative times 0 doesn't affect anything, so that's still 0, 0. But negative times 1 is negative 1, negative 4, and negative 9. Again, picture this as your new y-axis and your new x-axis. So here's 0, 0. Now I go left 1, up 1, left 4, up 2, left 9, up 3. And now we have a square root that's actually, instead of always being headed in the right direction, it's now being headed left. So what was really confusing for students in the past is how do we determine the domain and range? And sometimes they'd get the right numbers or symbols, but they would write them down in the wrong order. So domain, is there any limit how far this goes to the left? So negative infinity. Is there any limit how far it goes to the right? No, no. What is the x value where it stops at? 7, and we include the 7. For the range, we always start down low first. The lowest y value for the range occurs at 2. We include it. And is there any limit how far this goes up as it travels to the left? Okay. You're going to do the next one with me. I think you have one more space on that graph. Am I correct? Yes. On the front? I'm going to start by making a table. Because it is a square root, I'll stick with pattern 00114293. My next step is going to be to rewrite this inside by writing a negative in front. And then ask yourself, negative times what gives you this negative x? The answer is x. So if I distribute this negative sign, I end up with negative x. Now I need to end up with a positive 3. So inside needs to be a negative 3. From this, we can see what our new origin is. Our new origin says shift to the right 3 and down 1. Shift to the right 3 and down 1. So I've taken care of this, I've taken care of this. Scale factor, I can see it's going to, this basic S shape is going to grow, it's going to rise and fall at a faster rate. Remember, this number plus the negative will get multiplied by the y values. So this becomes 0, -2, -4, -6. And the negative sign in front of the parentheses under the radical symbol gets multiplied by the x values. Here's 0, 0. Now it says go left 1 and down 2, left 4 and down 4, and left 9 and down 6. Just to recap, we've shifted this to the right 3 and down 1. We can see it as a scale factor of 2, so it's going to be vertically stretched by a factor of 2. We've reflected it across this imaginary x-axis that's been shifted down, and we've reflected it across this imaginary y-axis. Okay, you have 15 seconds with your partner to identify on paper what is the domain and range. Go. So domain talks about going left and right. We're already going to start with the smaller numbers first, or the ones that are most negative. Is there any limit how far this goes to the left? No. But there isn't a limit how far it goes to the right. It goes as far as an x value of 3, and we include it. For the range, again, we always start with the smaller numbers first. Is there any limit how far this goes down as it's being pulled to the left? No. But there is a limit how far it goes up, and the limit is -1, and we include it.